going to jump right into our main story tonight, which concerns the Republican National Convention, the worst thing to happen to Milwaukee since Jeffrey Dahmer. This week saw the usual pageant of prominent politicians on stage and abject weirdos in the audience, from attendees wearing bandages on their ears to match Trumps to this guy crashing a reporter's shot in a "Where is the Epstein client list" T-shirt to this woman in a bride-to-be sash having the most cursed bachelorette party in existence. It feels like she told her bridesmaid she wanted to see a bunch of dicks on stage and they tragically misunderstood the assignment. Although, to be fair, if anything screams last night of freedom, it is the Republican National Convention. There was also Hulk Hogan tearing his shirt off, Kid Rock scream-singing to a crowd that was either not into it or way too into it, and a speech from Perry Johnson, a failed presidential candidate from Michigan, who put his all into rallying the crowd, only to be played off by the band with the best possible song choice.
President Trump is ready to save our country, to make America great again. I am ready to do whatever is necessary to get Trump back in the White House. Are you with me? Yes! 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 Trump! 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 Let's do it!
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah, he got smash-mouthed. And while there is never a good time to play that song, the funniest time for the lyric "not the sharpest tool in the shed" is immediately following a pro-Trump speech by a man who apparently showed both his plastic surgeon and hairstylist a photo of Holland Taylor and said, "This, please." Now, going into the week, we were repeatedly told that in the wake of the assassination attempt on Trump, we should expect something very different from this convention.
Trump claims the moment has now changed him. He said he will adopt a different tone going forward in this campaign.
Look, this is going to be a different tone.
The attack on Trump has changed the storyline and the tone of this convention, with the former president calling for unity.
Yeah, but that was never going to happen. Because you expect to see certain things at the RNC. Elephant logos, cowboy hats, a massive spike in grinder usage. But a message of unity is not something traditionally associated with that event, or indeed this man. And unsurprisingly, the RNC was in no way toned down.
The Democrats' disastrous record on crime, trade, and regulation has ruined the lives of countless Minnesotans.
Democrats come for your kids. They're indoctrinating them with poisonous attitudes on race and gender.
We become totally unhinged if Donald Trump is not elected in November.
OK. All of that was awful, but that last camera cut was just spectacular. If you had asked me what is next to this guy just out of the frame and given me 1,000 guesses, there is no way I'm saying a lumpy bulldog lounging in an armchair like it's being interviewed at the 92nd Street Y. And do not drag a bulldog to the RNC. Life is hard enough for them. To have the soul of a wolf trapped inside the body of a wrinkly bowling ball? To be inbred over centuries into the perfect genetic car crash? That dog doesn't deserve to be made into a prop at the RNC. It deserves a rawhide bone and an apology from humanity. And that was all before we got to Trump's bonkers 90-minute-plus speech on Thursday, in which he initially promised that he was running to be president of all of America, not half of America, but quickly went off-prompter to rant about crazy Nancy Pelosi and the China virus and repeatedly suggest the 2020 election was stolen. But the big theme that he and so many other speakers kept returning to this week was this.
We have to stop the invasion into our country that's killing hundreds of thousands of people a year.
Biden has welcomed into our country rapists, murderers, even terrorists.
We are facing an unprecedented invasion of millions of illegal aliens across our southern border.
It looks like and it feels like an invasion because it is.
We are facing an invasion on our southern border. Not figuratively, a literal invasion.
I do not like that man, Ted Cruz. I do not like his toxic views. I do not like his nasty speeches. I do not like the shit he preaches. I do not like him when he fishes. I do not like him when he kisses. Pulling off that beard he ain't, that man Ted Cruz, looks like a taint. And I will say, I know the Republican Party gets a lot of shit for only landing D-list celebrities, but I do have to hand it to them. Booking the actual pair from the American Gothic painting was a pretty good get. And look, it's no accident Republicans were focusing so hard on immigration. Recent polling shows it's the second most important issue among Americans. But a big reason for that is the relentless, bad-faith fear-mongering around the issue by the Republican Party itself. Perhaps best summed up by the startling growth this year of the toxic phrase migrant crime. Now, starting in late January, Fox began using it a lot, and always to build a very specific narrative.
Concerns of a migrant crime wave are growing across New York City.
Every third day, there's a story about some sort of migrant crime.
There's a migrant crime spree killing Americans, and the president's an accessory to murder.
Yeah, out of nowhere, there was a surge in talk of migrant crime, which went from occasional mentions in December and January to over 300 mentions in February. Basically, migrant crime is a phrase that seemed to come out of nowhere and then was suddenly all over the place, like what the Sigma and skibbity toilet. And by the way, those are real phrases used by the younger generations, or they were, until I just ruined them by having them slide out of my old mouth. And as the use of that term skyrocketed, there was a correlating spike in concern about immigration, with the number of Americans who viewed it as their #1 issue jumping 8 points between January and February. But this wasn't reflecting anything happening in the real world. Because to be very clear, there is no migrant crime wave happening right now. In fact, there is no crime wave at all. Crime in general has been trending downward in recent years, including this one, with murder, rape, robbery and property crime all decreasing, even as talk of migrants committing those crimes has exploded. As for migrant crime specifically, experts will tell you there is no evidence of a relationship between somebody's immigrant status and their involvement in crime. In fact, while most states don't track crime data by immigration status, in the one state that does, Texas, researchers have found the illegal immigrant criminal conviction rate is roughly 45% below that of native-born Americans. And yet, despite that, there has been a wave of conservatives claiming there is a wave of migrant crime. And that is almost definitely going to be continuing until November. So given that, tonight, let's talk about migrant crime. And let's start with where exactly the term came from. Because if you listen to Trump, which obviously you should not, he'll say it was all his idea.
It's a new category. I don't know if you've heard this, but I came up with this one, migrant crime. There's violent crime, there's migrant crime. We have a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's going to be worse than any other form of crime.
OK. Obviously, that is not a new category of crime, and obviously he didn't invent it, because you can't invent putting two words together. Although, I will say he has tried to innovate the phrase. At one point this year, he told an audience that it should be called Biden migrant crime, but that's too long, which is true. And luckily, he workshopped a solution to that problem in real time.
Because Joe Biden allowed this to happen, we will call it from now on Biden migrant crime, OK? It's migrant crime. This is, we'll call it, I got it, migrant. Let's call it migrant. Biden crime. Oh, that's good. That's smart. Migrant crime.
OK, I'll give him this. He did coin the term migrant crime. You can have that one, Doniel. It is the stupidest term I've ever heard, but it is all yours. And I love the fact that he literally pointed to his head when he said, "That's smart." Almost like he was saying, I know where thoughts come from, and it's not here, or here, or here. It's here. This is where the smart comes from. I call it my smart lump, or smump. I came up with that one, too. But if you go back and actually look, the event that prompted first Fox and then Trump to start pushing the term migrant crime was a brawl that happened on January 27th of this year in Times Square. You may even remember the police released this 45-second clip of officers fighting with a group of migrants. It got a ton of play on Fox, where one particular detail about what happened afterward got extra attention.
A gang of migrants broke into the country, pummeled 2 NYPD officers, and while walking out of jail without bail, flipped the double bird to the country that let him in. The two birds heard around the world. The symbol of the Biden presidency, right there.
OK, for the record, the symbol for the Biden presidency is absolutely not two birds. As we all know, it is a bunch of piss-stained Democrats nervously Googling, how old is a person allowed to be? But that image of the guy flipping off the camera was used constantly on Fox from February through early March. It was used in at least 66 segments during that period, with the man's fingers blurred out, presumably, to protect the eyes of the innocent children who are forced to watch Fox News at Grandma's while they eat their dinosaurs lived with humans nuggets. Fox kept hammering their coverage of that incident, with perhaps the apex being a segment where Sean Hannity did an interview with Curtis Sliwa, the head of the vigilante group The Guardian Angels, live from Times Square. Now, during the interview, Sliwa's fellow angels suddenly mobilised towards something off-camera, and he later explained they'd had to get physical with a migrant whom they'd seen committing a crime.
Well, he had been shoplifting first. The Guardian Angels spotted him, stopped him. He resisted. And let's just say we gave him a little pain compliance. His mother back in Venezuela felt the vibrations. He's sucking concrete. The cops scraped him off the asphalt. He's on his way to jail, but they'll cut him loose. We got to take 42nd Street back, Sean. These illegals think they own this street. They think they rule the night. This is our country. If they can't abide by the rules, then we're going to kick them back from where they came.
Hold on. First, rule the night on 42nd Street? I call bullshit. Anyone who lives here knows the night there is ruled by groups of 13-year-olds leaving Aladdin on their way to the Red Lobster 1 block away. Let me say this clearly. Immigrants are not invading our country and they are not taking over 42nd Street. But if they are, they can fucking have it. But there's a few other things that feel important to mention about that. First, you can't just beat someone up if you think they're committing a crime. And second, you should never go out in public dressed like that. He looks like Alan Arkin playing one of the Angry Birds. He looks like a divorced strawberry. He looks like if the G.I. Joes had an off-hours bowling team. But it gets worse, because it turned out the man they'd beaten up wasn't actually a migrant at all, and there was no evidence to support the allegation he was shoplifting. It seems like what actually happened is that Sliwa's goons apprehended the guy for allegedly attempting to disrupt a live interview, which is not a crime and also not what he did, since surveillance footage apparently shows he was just trying to manoeuvre through the crowd when the vigilantes confronted him. But Sliwa said he believed the man was a migrant because he was speaking Spanish, something that can be said of about roughly 25% of this city, including, by the way, me. ¿Qué vas a hacer, Curtis Sliwa? Soy inmigrante y estoy hablando español. ¿Me vas a mandar tu pendejos, hijo de puta? Tu gorra es demasiado estúpida y tu cara también. Eres una mierda y no creo que tu mamá esté orgullosa de ti. And it turns out, even the facts of the original Times Square incident that started all of this fell apart in similar fashion, because when more camera footage came out, it revealed how the whole incident had begun and made the NYPD look less like unwitting victims and more like the instigators.
NYPD body cam video takes us inside that Times Square brawl that made national headlines. That and new surveillance video police released, raising more questions tonight whether the January altercation should have happened at all. The two officers approached the group of men.
Vamos, what's 4-1?
The crowd is giving direction to please disperse, that they're blocking the sidewalk.
The video doesn't support that, as people are seen walking by. Most of the group immediately moves, but Yohenry Brito in yellow is the last to leave, telling police, "Don't touch me." But when he starts to finally obey the officer's orders, pushing the stroller away, the group begins singing a derogatory song. And then this. Immediately after Brito yells, "Looks like Ugly Betty," to the group, the officer is shown pushing him up against a wall.
Yeah, if you watch the wide shot, it becomes clear that what set the whole scuffle off is one cop choosing to push that guy up against a wall after the other one got called Ugly Betty. And for what it's worth, this is what the cop looked like. And if you're thinking, well, he only kind of looks like Ugly Betty, let me remind you, in Latin America, Ugly Betty looks like this, and that is a fair hit. And violence is not an acceptable response to someone being insulted that correctly. Do you think there haven't been moments when I haven't wanted to throw someone against a wall because they called me worst Sheldon or a less sexual Screech or what would happen if the rat and the chef from Ratatouille fucked? Sure. It hurts my feelings, Mom, but it's also fair and it doesn't justify violence. But wait, because there's one more twist here. Remember the guy flipping the double birds who was on Fox News at least 66 times? The symbol of migrant crime. Well, funny story, the Manhattan DA ended up dismissing the charges against him because it turned out he had nothing to do with the incident. He wasn't even there. The NYPD apparently mistook him for a completely different person for a mystery reason that I'm sure wasn't racist at all. So he was arrested for something he didn't do, spent 2 nights in jail, and then had cameras shoved in his face. Now, I personally cannot think of a scenario in which flipping 2 middle fingers is more appropriate there. Honestly, if he could have grown another hand in that moment, I would not have blamed him for throwing up a 3rd bird for good measure. But the facts that came out afterward didn't really matter. Because by then, migrant crime was already out there as a phrase, and ever since, Fox and the Republicans have been hammering the idea that migrants are dangerous. And because, again, there is no data to back up claims of a migrant crime wave, they've instead had to resort to anecdotes or exaggeration. For instance, the Republican National Committee made a website tracking alleged examples of migrant crime called BidenBloodbath.com. If you go to it, you'll find the names of 13 different states, which you can click on to find evidence of so-called migrant crime there. But for 4 of those states, when you click through, you'll find all they're able to cite is those states' overall rates of fentanyl deaths. And look, those deaths were tragic, but you cannot connect them to migrant crime, given that to the extent fentanyl has been seized at the border, 90% of the time it was seized during legal crossings, and 91% of those seizures were from US citizens. Which, of course, they were. If you want to move drugs across the border, you're going to do it with American citizens because they attract less attention from authorities. I'm not telling you how to move drugs. But if you are going to, that is the only smart way to do it. So I have just told you how to move drugs. And as for people crossing illegally, just 0.009% of people arrested by Border Patrol last year were found to possess any fentanyl whatsoever. So, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I don't know if BidenBloodbath.com is the reliable source of news and information that we all thought it was. And look, I am not saying that there haven't been individual migrants who committed crimes. Of course there have, because migrants are people, and some people do bad things in the same way some ABBA fans and some people with SpongeBob tattoos have committed crimes. And if it so happens that there is someone out there who is a migrant ABBA fan with multiple SpongeBob tattoos, the only thing they're likely to be guilty of is being an utterly fascinating human being. What is your story, dude? I have so many questions about what brought you to this point. The thing is, if you want to prevent crime and death, that's a great idea. And there are absolutely ways to do that. But when you draw a circle around a few members of a particular group, especially one identifiable by race or nationality, then generalise about what this means about all of them, no matter what you say, you're not having a reasoned debate about crime or safety. You're being racist. And the depressing thing is, all this fear-mongering has been effective. Over 70% of Republicans now believe there is a high risk of people illegally coming to the US and committing crimes, something which, again, is demonstrably and provably false. As we know, immigrants aren't causing more crime in this country. If they're leading to more of anything, it's more good food and more people who cannot believe how mean we are to our moms. And what is doubly infuriating is that too many Democrats have been willing to go along with this false narrative. Biden has repeatedly been pressured into imposing stricter immigration restrictions, most recently in June, when he imposed sweeping new asylum restrictions for the US-Mexico border. Earlier this year, he actually pushed for an even tougher immigration bill, which Trump explicitly told Republicans not to support, arguing it would give the Democrats a political victory, suggesting none of this is about safety at all. It's entirely self-serving. And that absurd Times Square incident that supercharged this whole migrant crime panic nonsense ended up pushing some Democratic leaders into stupid public statements like this one from Governor Kathy Hochul, who had this to say about the migrants who'd been blamed.
Get them all and send them back. You don't touch our police officers. You don't touch anybody.
Yeah, it's true. You don't touch anyone in New York City, do you? Unless, it seems, someone calls your friend Ugly Betty, or you happen to be dressed as a Parisian tomato and hear someone speaking Spanish, in which case, all bets are off. And the thing is, even after so much of that Times Square story unravelled, some of the people caught up in it have continued to pay a significant price. Two of the people who were there, neither of whom were accused of touching the officers, were detained for months on Rikers Island, and one is still there. Look, for the last time, migrant crime is not on the rise. That is a fact. What is also a fact, though, is that people now feel that it is. And that feeling has the potential to cause massive harm. And all of this is making solving the genuine issues around immigration, like dealing with the massive backlog in our immigration courts and providing cities help in sheltering and supporting migrants awaiting asylum hearings, that much harder. So, what can we do? Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but we're currently 4 months out from an election. So just assume that the underlying what can we do for most of our US stories from now until then is going to be do not vote for Donald Trump. Again, that seems like that should be barely worth saying, like drink water or go to the dentist. But it does bear repeating because, be honest, when was the last time you drank water or indeed went to the dentist? Exactly. And look, I'm not saying by any means that Biden is perfect or even good when it comes to immigration. But he or whoever winds up being the Democratic candidate, because who on earth knows anything about that right now, is going to be incontrovertibly better than the alternative. And I know this has been a bleak few weeks, and it's been incredibly depressing to see reports of anonymous Democrat leaders saying things like, we've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency, because frankly, fuck that. There is just too much on the line here to give up like that. Trump and the bigots around him plan to use his victory to make immigrants' lives absolute hell, and he is not exactly hiding that.
They're sending their murderers to the United States of America. This is going to be very bad. And bad things are going to happen, and you're seeing it happen all the time. That's why, to keep our families safe, the Republican platform promises to launch the largest deportation operation in the history of our country.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying it pretty much all out loud there, to enthusiastic cheers from a crowd, some of whom have cheese on their heads. And he's not making that up either. That is the Republican Party's official position now. Their new platform calls for the largest deportation operation in American history. They even made official signs for people to wave, reading mass deportation now. And even if the courts slow that attempt down, which is by no means a guarantee, Project 2025 offers them lots of other bureaucratic ways to hurt immigrants, from terminating the legal status of 500,000 dreamers by eliminating staff time to review and process their renewal applications, to barring US citizens from qualifying for federal housing subsidies if they live with anyone who is not a US citizen or legal permanent resident. Those plans are outrageous, and if Trump wins, they could be public policy. And Democratic leaders cannot sit back and resign themselves to that. There are so many things that we as Americans do have to resign ourselves to. Airline cancellations, a national anthem with too many high notes, Glenn Powell inevitably starring in a Field of Dreams remake. We can't fight those things, but we can and must fight this. And at the end of this week, it should be clear to absolutely everyone, it doesn't matter if Trump and his party say they have a new tone or nominally call for unity or throw a cute dog on stage for some reason. They have told us who they are. They've told us what they want. They literally put it on a sign and waved it in everyone's face. They are trying to win this election by pointing a finger at immigrants, and the only appropriate response is to take a cue from the so-called symbol of the Biden presidency and say, fuck that shit. And now, this.
And now, a few more highlights from the Republican National Convention.
You didn't really expect that, did you?
We were at Mar-a-Lago, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart just walked in. And he said, I don't care. This is Ben Carson.
Donald Trump, 21 club championships. Joe Biden, 0.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
I soon went from making waffles to making history.
The only speech or poem or song that I ever made my kids memorize when they were young, when they were little, it was the Gettysburg Address.
You'll never hear me say, I'm on God's side, or God's with me, or even I'm with God.
This morning I did walk out of a federal prison.
And I haven't even started my hot flashes yet, guys. Just wait.
No Rogaine in the propane flow. The chosen one, I'm the living proof.
This is our last chance to make America great again.
I was bleeding like a pig, and I won the world title right in front of Donald J. Trump.
Thank you, Kid Rock, sometimes referred to as Bob.
They fight!